Let me say something that might challenge what you have heard. You see, a lot of people assume that new construction homes are overpriced, that they're rigid, and maybe sometimes that they're never negotiable. But let me tell you, in today's market, in today's South Florida market, whether it's Miami-Dade, Broward, or Palm Beach, or a lot of parts around the country, really, that assumption is not always true. So in fact, depending on the builder, the incentives, and the timing, new construction can sometimes create more flexibility than even resale. So today, I want to walk you through 5 real reasons I personally love new construction. Not from the resale perspective, but from the strategy, the stewardship, and even from the long-term peace of mind perspective that new construction can bring. But I'm also going to tell you when I don't recommend it, so don't worry. So it's not for everyone or always. So if you're thinking about buying, relocating, or investing, or even exploring options, this video might be for you. But before we dive in, just know that this video is sponsored by Sacaba, but more on that later. Let's dive in. Let's talk some real estate. To everyone who has already subscribed to my channel, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I really do appreciate it. I wish I could say thank you to each one of you individually. So hopefully you're seeing this video and you hear me say thank you to you. If you're new to this channel, please consider it. Here we just talk all real estate, nothing fancy, no fear mongering. I just want to give you information. So, if you're a homeowner, if you're thinking about becoming a homeowner, if you're selling, if you're an investor, if you're relocating to South Florida, I just want to talk calm, clear, give us some strategic ways to navigate real estate. So hopefully, you can get something out of this channel. Hopefully you can share it with other people as well. Yo también hablo español, so si necesitan ayuda en español, me pueden llamar. I am here to help you in English and Spanish. And of course, my team has every other language as well. So, we're here to talk real estate and just to help you transition and to make some money with the real estate too. That's part of what makes real estate great. Real estate still creating more millionaires than any other industry. So why not? I want you to have a piece of that pie. So when I say let's talk real estate, I mean let's talk real estate and make some money in the process. You see, right now, buyers feel a lot of tension. Interest rates are not what they were or what they promised that they were going to be, So the cost of insurance is still a conversation. HOAs are a factor here in Florida. And monthly payments is everything at the end of the day, really, when you think about it. So at the exact same time, builders have inventory. Builders have quarterly goals. They have completion deadlines. They have incentives too. So incentives change the math of that monthly payment. So instead of guessing, let me walk you through 5 specific reasons I love new construction in order and what they mean for real people making real decisions. Reason number 1. Builder incentives can change the equation. It can change the math, So first reason is we have to talk about money. Let's start with money part. So many builders today, they're offering rate buydowns. They're offering closing cost credits. They're offering design center allowance, appliance packages, sometimes even the price reductions on quick move-ins. And here in simple terms, what that means. A 1% difference on $500,000 on a loan that's $500,000 can change your payment by hundreds of dollars per month. That's not decoration, that's breathing room. And like some resale sellers who are emotionally attached to their prices, builders are not. They're running a business. If you understand timing, if you understand inventory levels, and you understand the negotiating structure, there can be opportunity there. But here's the key. You don't just ask, what the rate is. That's one part of the equation. That's one part of the math. You also have to ask, what is my total cost over time? And that's when the strategy really plays a good part. The second reason, just lower maintenance in the early years. And that's predictability, and that has value. So now let's slow it down here, because this reason doesn't get enough attention. And this is important to me, and I'm talking to you as someone that purchased a new property, right? The second reason I love new construction is there's just no maintenance for several years at least. I'm not talking about cosmetic things. I'm talking about the expensive stuff. Think about what typically costs homeowners, when they do a resale property, how much it costs to do a roof replacement or a HVAC system when that fails, or when the plumbing leaks, or electrical issues, or water heater replacement, or major appliance breakdown. When you buy a resale home, even one that looks beautiful, you're still inheriting age. And age isn't bad, but it has math attached to it. If a roof has 5 years left, that's a future expense. If an AC unit is 12 years old, here in the South Florida heat, that's not if, but that's only when. So now compare that to a new construction home. Everything is brand new, and that means the roof just started its lifespan. The HVAC system is fresh. Plumbing hasn't been stressed for 15 years. Appliances are under warranty. Electrical meets current code standards, and that's so important. And it doesn't mean nothing will ever break, but statistically speaking, the first 3 to 5 years are typically much more predictable. And predictability has financial value. Peace of mind has a financial value. So let's put that into real numbers. So imagine this scenario. You buy a resale home, and within 18 months, the AC goes out, so that's $7,000. Water, the water heater has to be replaced, that's $1,500. Plumbing has some issues, that's $800. You spend $10,000 unexpectedly. Does that happen always? No, but it has a greater percentage chance of happening. Now compare that to a new construction, a new property that we just built, that they just handed the key, where those systems are new and often covered under warranty, at least in the early years. That's not just convenience, but that's stability. So, for first-time home buyers, especially, that stability reduces stress. For families budgeting carefully, it reduces risk. For investors, it protects early cash flow. So the emotional impact matters too, and that's important. So, and there's something psychological about moving into a home where everything is fresh. You're not wondering, when will this break? You're not wondering, when was this installed correctly? Or was this installed correctly, I should say. You're not wondering, did the previous owners maintain this well? Instead, you're starting clean, fresh. And a clean start can allow you to focus on building savings, on investing, or simply enjoying your home. Peace has value. It lowers stress, has value. But of course, in order to stay balanced, I want to be honest, because new construction does not mean zero issues. Sometimes minor cosmetic items show up, sometimes settling cracks appears. Builder workmanship, needs correction. And that's why inspection and walkthroughs matter. But large capital expenses in the early years, those are statistically lower in new builds. Doesn't mean that they don't exist, they're just lower. And for many buyers in South Florida, especially those relocating, that's predictability, and it's worth a lot. Why this matters in today's market? Well, right now, many buyers are stretching to afford monthly payments. If your budget is already tight, the last thing you need is a surprise $8,000 repair in just 1 year. Lower early maintenance helps you, rebuild savings. It helps you adjust to a new mortgage payment. It helps helps you stabilize financially. And you plan, instead of reacting. And long-term wealth is built through planning, not reaction. Which leads to the third reason, warranty protection. If you know how to use it, the third reason, I love, new construction is because of the warranty protection. You have to know how to use it, and because most buyers misunderstand how powerful this can be. Most new construction homes include multiple layers of warranty coverage. Typically, 1 year workmanship, 2 years system warranty on HVAC and plumbing, electrical. Sometimes you get 10 years structural warranty. Again, does that mean you never have issues? Not at all. But it means you have some leverage, and you're not going to get that in older homes. Why this is different from resale? When you buy a resale home, once you close, most things just become your responsibility. That's it. Yes, you can negotiate repairs, before closing. You can ask for credits before closing, but after closing, the headache is yours. With new construction, there's a defined post-closing protection window, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 5 years, depending on what it is. And that changes the emotional experience of ownership. So instead of feeling like you're on your own, you have a system to submit concerns through, and that's important. But here's the part most buyers miss. Warranties only protect the diligence. With warranties, you have to do a serious final walkthrough. You have to use, the blue tape very carefully. You have to document everything. You have to submit warranty tickets in writing. You have to keep records. I always tell clients, listen, this is not the time to be shy. If something looks slightly off, mark it. When you're doing the walkthrough, get that blue tape, mark it. Because after deadlines pass, your leverage decreases. For example, let's say 8 months after you close, you notice there's the minor foundation is cracking, right? If it's minor, it's the crack in the foundation, whatever. You notice that the AC, the performance is inconsistency. Let's say that the ceiling in the windows are giving you issues. On a resale home, that's your bill. That's on you, buddy. That's it. On a property that's warranted a new construction home, that could be addressed. That's not just convenience, that's financial protection. Long-term perspective. Even the 10-year structural warranty, even that matters. You may never need it, and I hope you never do. But if something major happens, is there. That protection can preserve value. So when you're talking about $500,000 or $800,000, asset, which is what a home is, here in South Florida, risk management just matters. That's why reason number 3, isn't about being flashy. It's about being strategic, about protecting your money, about having some backup that sometimes you don't get when you have a resale home. The fourth reason is just that, the energy efficiency of new properties, So this isn't just about bills, it's about being resilient, right? So the fourth reason, I love new construction is just modern energy efficiency and building standards that are better, that have been improved, that are just being applied to that new property. So most people think that this just means that you have a lower electric bill, And yes, that's part of it. But in South Florida, it goes way deeper. So let's talk about the climate reality. So, we deal here in Florida with humidity, with extreme heat, with salt in the air. We deal with heavy rain. We deal with storm exposure. And new construction, they're built, prepared to withstand some of the codes here are designed to protect the home as much as possible from those areas, especially if it's a post-hurricane revision. If it's built after these hurricanes that we have had, there's a lot of code changes that have been made that are made to protect you, that are made to not just protect your life, but have been designed to have better buildings, better structure, stronger safety features, and you kind of need that here. And I keep saying South Florida because that's where I live. Again, if you want to move to South Florida, we'd love to help you make that transition. Great place to live. But if you live in the north, it's the same thing with snow. Excuse me, my mom just went blank. With snow, with sleet, with everything that's happening out there. New codes are just better. Just helps you have a better structure home, and it's just a peace of mind. Like I said at the beginning, that you just can't pay for that. But anyway, I regress. What does that mean, right? So these new codes. Let's see some of the items. You have improved roof attachment standards. That's what counts with new homes. You have better window ratings so they can support more stuff. You have stronger door systems. You have modern insulation. You have impact glass in many communities. And that affects control. That affects your insurance potential. That affects your long-term durability. Again, peace. So monthly costs that are impacted with energy efficient HVAC systems. You have improved ductwork. You have better attic ceilings. You have all this that it reduces strain. And now imagine two homes. One that's built in 2005 and one that is built in 2025. Even if both are the same square footage, the 2025 build likely is more efficient in cooling. It has a better moisture control. It has lower air leakage. Over 10 years, that difference compounds dramatically, or I shouldn't say not dramatically overnight, but, steadily. And one night you'll be like, what happened? Things just broke. No, it's been happening steadily, over the years. But here's a bigger benefit. Efficiency reduces system strain. Less strain on the HVAC system, less strain on electrical, less strain on insulation, which means that potentially longer lifespans of all of your systems, which that connects directly back to the maintenance costs that I was talking about. See how these reasons start to connect? So this isn't random, it's truly structural. The fifth reason I love new construction is about the community structure and future resale positioning. And this one is often underestimated. Why? Because again, you have master plan that is designed for changes in lifestyle. So many communities in Miami-Dade and in Broward and in Palm Beach, they're designed intentionally. You often see the unified architectures, or you see the sidewalk systems, or you see the community pools, clubhouses, fitness centers, green spaces, retail and school planning nearby. And that design does something powerful when you really think about it. it just creates that cohesion that the communities are really looking for. And that cohesion creates a perceived value, and that perceived value protects your resale, right? So again, basically, when you're trying to sell this property, you will be able to, at least with much easier time than when you have a property already being resale, because you have all of these things already in place in the property, in the home that I just talked about, but also in the community. And a lot of people are looking for that. So again, I'm not saying you'll be able to resell it. Market dictate that, buyers dictate that. But you have just a greater chance of somebody wanting to see your home, not only because of the home, but because the community where it resides. That adds value. From an investor perspective, consistency really matters. In a master plan community, comms are clear, maintenance expectations are standardized, and that's right? I guess. But tenant demand is often predictable. So now rental restrictions must be reviewed carefully depending on where you buy, but when they are allowed, new construction communities often attract stable tenants who prefer modern layout and the amenities. Okay, that's my other video that I talk about HOAs. Read the fine line, the thin line everywhere to make sure that you're able to do that if that's what you want to do. So now, relocation, protects buyers, and that gives a perspective to buyers that they're also looking for. Meaning, if someone is relocating from another state, whatever, Connecticut, New York, it's a lot of people coming from New York. Welcome home. Just new construction in those communities, sometimes they just offer that predictability. The people want, when they move from other states, they want the moving ready. They don't want to fix anything. They like the modern layout and a sense of structure. That reduces the transition friction that they feel when they're moving from another state. And that emotional comfort just influence long-term satisfaction. Again, I talked about this earlier, I'm gonna repeat it again. Future resale angle. Don't lose sight of that. Let's think 10, 15, whatever, let's think 10 years ahead. A well-maintained new construction in a cohesive community just looks consistently better with other surrounding properties. It often aligns with current buyer preferences, and it benefits from the overall neighborhood maintenance, and that matters when you eventually sell. Again, to look at the other side, this is important, hence I'm going to repeat it again. If you're buying in a community that has an HOA, make sure you review that. And I did a whole video, about that. So, fees, you have to evaluate those. You have to understand the rules, because structure can protect value, but if it can also restrict flexibility, it's important for you to know. So wisdom, again, means understanding both sides, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But again, HOAs, review that contract with an attorney, with somebody that is knowledgeable in real estate, so you understand it before you get into it. A little upgrade can change how you walk into every room. And today's sponsor makes that easier than ever. Friends, before we jump back into the video, I want to say thank you to today's sponsor, Sakava. If you love high quality style, and believe me, I do, if you like clean designs, and if you like luxury pieces without luxury prices, this is going to be your new favorite store. As a professional realtor, presentation matters to me. The way you show up just sets the tone. And Sakava offers that perfect blend of class and affordability. From designer jackets and sunglasses to premium handbags, fragrances, dress shoes, watches, and accessories, it's all there. It's the kind of style that makes you feel ready for the interview. So it makes you feel ready for that business meeting or the boardroom, or just, you want to hang out at night with the family. And here's the good part. They gave my viewers a special discount. Take an additional 10% off when you check out using my code because people matter. Or even easier, click on the link in the description below or scan the QR code that is on the screen, and the discount will be applied automatically at checkout. So if you have been wanting to elevate your wardrobe, maybe 2026 is the year for you, and you want to have something meaningful, you want to feel good and look good, check out Sakava. You won't regret it. Upgrade your look without breaking the bank. Now, let's get back to the video. I want you to notice something. The 5 reasons we just discussed, they weren't random. I told you at the very beginning of that, remember? So, they build on each other. The reason number 1, we talked about incentive, and that affects the short-term math. The reason number 2 is lowers the maintenance and just protect early ownership. Reason number 3, it talked about warranty and is add the structure and the protection. Reason number 4 is about the energy efficiency that strengthens the durability and the monthly stability. And reason number 5 is the community design that supports long-term resale positioning. That's short-term, that's midterm and long-term strategy all layered together. And that's what I love new construction. But this is important too. Loving something doesn't mean ignoring its weaknesses. It's weaknesses. Every strength, it has a corresponding responsibility. And if incentives changing the math, you must understand the contract. If warranties protect you, you must use them properly. If communities create structure, you must read the rules. If everything is new, you must avoid over-improving it. This is where maturity enters the conversation. Because new construction done wisely, it can truly create stability. But new construction done emotionally, trust me, is gonna create some stress and some strains in your life. So now that we have covered the opportunity, let's talk about just 3 areas where buyers get hurt. Not because new construction is bad, but because they weren't prepared. Now let's talk about the 3 things people don't think about. Because although I love new construction, it doesn't mean that we have to ignore the reality. The first one, let's talk about something that quietly hurts, sometimes even more than interest rates, sometimes, depending on when you're watching this video. And that is the upgrade trap. If you have ever walked into a model home, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You know exactly what I mean. I've done it and I fell for that myself too. The lighting is perfect. The floors are flawless. The kitchen looks like it belongs in a magazine. Even the scents feel expensive. Well, here's what most people don't realize. Model homes are designed to sell emotion, not present the base price reality. That's not what they're there for. What's actually included? Well, when you walk through a model home, you often see premium cabinets. You're seeing upgraded countertops. You're looking at luxury flooring. You're looking at designer lighting packages and extended patios and custom trim work and upgraded stair rails and premium lot positioning. And many times those features are not included in the base price. Now, where does the math start creeping in? Here it is. So let's use real numbers. Let's say a builder advertises, you see this all the time, starting from $499,000 or from $300,000 or from, whatever else. And you fall in love with the model home. But by the time you choose everything that you want, cabinet upgrades is 12,000, and flooring upgrade is 9,000, and kitchen backsplash is 4,500. Lot premium is another 15,000, and the extended patio is 8,000, and lighting packages is 5,000. All of a sudden, you have added $50,000. So now your $499,000 home is $549,000 before closing costs. And here's the most important part. Every $10,000 you finance over 30 years increases your payment. Upgrades are not just static decisions, they're long-term financial decisions. So don't just fall for that. So with that, we have the psychological trap. Builders understand buyer psychology really well. Remember, they're in business of selling real estate. So they have to understand their buyers. So they got that. So when you're already spending $500,000, what does an extra 5,000 feel like? It's small. Nothing, it's just $5,000. But you stack 5 small decisions together, and now your monthly payment has changed significantly. And because it's wrapped into the mortgage, it feels painless. But until 5 years later, when you realize you financed decoration and lighting for decades. So if you're not planning to pay off the home quickly, that decoration might be very costly. So the strategic approach to avoiding the trap is this. And here's what I tell my clients before we ever walk into a design center. Pick your top 3 priorities in advance. Top 3. That's it. Before you walk in, before you see anything, pick your top 3. For example, you want durable flooring, because expensive to replace that later, perhaps. So the flooring might be your thing. Maybe the kitchen layout might be your thing. Maybe the lot location, everything else, nice to have, not necessarily. You could do that later. You must decide emotionally before you even step into the room. Because once you're sitting in the design center with examples in front of you, emotions get louder than logic, and it could be a mess. What makes sense to upgrade, decide that before you enter. Let's be balanced. Some upgrades are strategic. For example, flooring, that'll be extremely expensive to change later. Structural additions like extended patios or extra bedrooms, that could be expensive to do later. Electrical pre-wiring, that would be costly post-construction. But cosmetic upgrades, those can often be done later, sometimes cheaper, and without financing them for 30 years. With the investor angle, if you're buying as an investor, upgrades must be evaluated through your ROI. Again, tenants care about clean, functional, and durable. They don't care about luxury cabinets, and upgraded stair rails, or they don't care about over upgrading for rental property that destroys the long-term benefit of whatever they're doing there anyway. So keep it simple. That's it. Keep it durable. Keep it rentable if you're an investor. Again, and the resale reality is this. And this is another truth that you have to know. When you sell in 5 to 10 years, the next buyer may not even value the exact same things you value. They might want their own upgrades. They might destroy everything that you did in the first place. So that 15,000 designer tile choice, it might not increase the resale value by 15,000. So upgrades have to just improve the enjoyment. They do not always have to improve the return. Just think about that. So the balanced approach with wisdom, you have to upgrade you have to align your upgrades with your lifestyle, with your horizon, with your time horizon, with your financial flexibility, with your long-term plans. Not Instagram, not peer pressure, not model home lighting. And remember, you're buying the house. You're not buying the showroom. So A simple rule of thumb is this. Before selecting any upgrade, you have to ask yourself, if I had to write a check for this today instead of financing it, will I still choose it? If the answer is no, just rethink it. That one question has saved thousands of dollars to many, many people. Again, if you had to write a check today, get out of your bank, will you choose it? Just think about it. Why this matters so much right now? In today's market, monthly payments are sensitively high. And this is important. So even a small increase in purchase, that can change your debt to income qualifications, that can change your cash reserve, that can change your financial breathing room. And long-term wealth is built on breathing room, not stretch. You don't want to stretch yourself. That's not what you want. And that's why I love new construction, but only when approached strategically. The upgrade trap isn't a reason to avoid new builds, it's a reason to enter prepared. Now let's talk about something that can either protect your investment or give you a lot of frustration, long term, of course. And again, I am talking about the HOA. Yes. And this is especially important in South Florida, where many new construction communities are part of a master plan development. HOAs are not automatically bad. In fact, they often maintain landscaping, they protect the neighborhood appearance, they manage amenities like pools and gym and clubhouse. They preserve proper values, they enforce architectural consistency. That structure can be a strength. And it really works really great for some people. So if you're one of those and you have a good HOA, good for you, mate. But here's where buyers can get caught off guard. Monthly fees increase your total costs. So I know it's obvious, but we have to say it. So HOA fees affect your monthly payments. A $250 to $400 a month HOA fees can change the total housing cost significantly. And here it could be much higher than that. So, but the real issue isn't just the monthly number, it's what the fee covers and what it doesn't. Does it include exterior insurance? Does it include roof maintenance? Is landscaping covered? Are there reserves? Is there a CDC field layer on top of it all? In South Florida, some communities also include CDC, Community Development District. That's another fee, which are separate from HOAs and can show up in your tax bill. And that's where math really matters. HOAs can also have rental restrictions. So if you're an investor, make sure you pay attention. If you're buying as an investor or even think you might rent one day, this part is so critical. Some HOAs, they have rental caps. They have waiting periods, 1 to 2 years before you could rent. They have minimum lease terms. They have an approval process. They have limits on short-term rentals, if you're thinking like Airbnb and things like that. So if you assume flexibility without verifying it, you could limit your future options. And flexibility has value. So, lifestyle restrictions. Let's talk about your daily life. HOAs can't regulate the exterior paint colors. They can regulate the fence style. They can regulate parking, whether commercial vehicles, boats, or trailers. They can regulate holiday decorations and landscape changes. For some buyers, I should say, this is great peace and stability. For others, it feels very restrictive. Neither is wrong. It just needs to align with your personality. So make sure that you know what is it you're willing to accept. So financial health of an HOA, this is part of what people rarely check. And that is how well financially stable is the HOA where you're trying to enter. Does it have adequate reserve? Are they pending assessments? Is there litigation on the HOA? Many owners are delinquent. If that's the case, watch out. I don't know what else to say. So a poorly managed HOA can lead to future special assessments. A well-maintained HOA protects long-term value. That's not dramatic. That's just practical. It's political. Watch out. The balanced perspective, and here's the truth, the structure does protect the value of your property, and HOAs do brings that. But structure also reduces freedom. So before you commit, ask yourself, do I want independence or do I want organized consistency? There's no right answer. There's only the answer that fits your lifestyle. The smart move, before going under contract on a new construction in an HOA community, request the HOA document early. Read them. Review rental restrictions. Confirm total monthly cost, including if there's a CDC applicable on the property. Understand what's covered versus your reality or your responsibility. That 30 to 60 minutes of diligence can prevent years of frustration. Pay the lawyer $500, $1,000. It's not wasted money. They can save you hundreds of thousands. And remember, HOAs, they're not the enemy. Surprises are. You don't want to be surprised. Now, let's talk about something that doesn't show up in model homes. And that is, insurance and layer fees. Because again, in many different places, this is not a small detail. This is part of the entire decisions. Insurance in Florida, it's its own thing, its own conversation, its own video that we have to talk about. But we live in a state where, we have hurricane exposure, we have wind risk, we have flood zones, we have coastal salt air, we have heavy rain systems. Insurance companies, they price risk, and that affects your monthly payment just as much as your mortgage rates. Now, here's the good news about many new construction homes. They're built under updated building codes, as I mentioned earlier, so that often means stronger roof attachment systems, impact rated windows, or at least shutters that are included, right? That includes updated wind mitigation standards. That also includes just modern electrical systems. All of that can positively influence insurability and sometimes premiums. But again, and this is important, never assume. Find out. Always get a real insurance quote during your inspection period. Because even in the same community, premiums can vary very much. They can vary based on elevation of the property, the flood zone classification, the roof type, the proximity to the water. It could vary depending on the coverage level that you select, right? So an insurance is not something you want to estimate, at least not casually. It needs to be calculated precisely so you know exactly what you're getting into. Flood zones matter. Some new constructions, some communities, new constructions, they are in flood zones, and some are not. So flood insurance is separate from homeowners insurance, and that can add hundreds, sometimes thousands annually, depending on the classification of where the new construction is. So before committing, verify the FEMA flood zone, verify the base flood elevation, verify whether flood insurance is required by your lender. And this is not fear-based thinking. This is just for you to be informed. So the total monthly payment is the only number that matters. when you add everything up. So when you're evaluating new construction, don't just focus on the base price, the incentive, the rate buy down. Focus on the total obligation. And yes, that includes your mortgage, property taxes, including the CDC, if that's applicable again. Look at the homeowners insurance, look at the flood insurance, if it's required in your area, and if it's a flood zone, right? Look at the HOA. That full number determine how sustainable it is. And being sustainable determines your peace. Sustainability determines peace. And this channel, I preach peace. So why this is important right now? Again, buyers are payment sensitive, if I could say it that way, and stretching beyond comfort to get into a home, even if a beautiful one, you just can create long-term pressure, and I don't know if I want that for you. So pressure just erodes judgment, and new construction can be a strong decision, but it could be a costly one. So but only when the entire cause, the picture, you just have clarity. Don't assume, don't estimate, verified, find out. So So the smart buyer approach before going on a contract is, again, request an estimate of the property taxes and look at the breakdown. Confirm, whether the CDC applies. Get insurance quotes from at least 2 carriers. Verified the flood zone and what the status of that is. Ask the builder for wind mitigation documents. That 1 or 2 hours of diligence can save you years or financial strains. And here's the balanced truth. New construction often reduces repair risk, but insurance and layer fees are where buyers must slow down, because wise homeownership isn't about avoiding risk, it's about understanding it. There's a principle that speaks directly to real estate decisions and honestly to life decisions too. And that's found in Matthew 7:24. Jesus says, "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on the rock." Notice something powerful there. It doesn't say the storms won't come. If you read the rest of the verses, if you know the stories, it doesn't say that the winds won't blow. It says that the foundation determines the outcome. Where is the builder building? And when you think about buying a home, especially new construction, that principle applies perfectly, because the storm isn't always weather. Sometimes the storm is financial pressure. Sometimes the storm is unexpected costs. Sometimes it's poor planning. Sometimes it's emotional decision making. Sometimes it's ignoring the details. A strong foundation in real estate isn't just concrete, it's clarity, it's preparation, it's patience, it's asking the hard questions before signing that dotted line. So when you build on impulse, the cracks will show later. When you build on wisdom, the structure will hold. New construction can be beautiful, it can be modern, it can be efficient, but if the decision itself isn't built on a rock, meaning understanding the incentives and the fees and HOA and insurance and the long-term plans, then even a brand new home can feel very unstable, and I don't want that for you. So faith doesn't remove responsibility, faith sharpens it. It reminds us that stewardship matters. A home is one of the largest financial commitments most families would ever make. So we don't rush, we don't assume, right? We don't get carried away by what looks fancy and finishes and lighting. We don't do that. We build carefully. Because when financial winds come, and they do come, and they do blow, right? If the house is built on strong foundation, it will stand. And that's really what this entire video has been about. Not just about loving new construction, but about loving it wisely. As I said, I bought a new construction. I loved it. I love it. And it's been a great, great decision. It's not for everyone. It's not for always. Just make sure you make the wise decisions when you do make that decision. So new construction isn't automatically better. Resale isn't automatically safer. What matters is alignment with your finances, with your short-term, long-term, mid-term goals, and of course, what aligns with your peace. If you found this helpful, please save this video because I know it's long. And when you're actively looking and shopping for a home, you can come back and view it later. Of course, share it with anybody that is thinking about, buying a new home. Comment below. What's your biggest hesitation about new construction? And if you want to go deeper, I recommend to watch this video right here that I talk about how to save money for a down payment here in South Florida or pretty much anywhere you live. So it's a great video, give you a lot of details on how to do this. So thank you for being here. Thank you for thinking carefully, thank you for building wisely. You remember, God loves you and so do I. I'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe.